kick us off, like I really just wanted to know what your major was in college, any campus involvements you had, and how they tied into like your professional experience today and in the past. So internships, fellowships you had.
For sure. So from an undergrad perspective and what got me into tech and got me into product generally. So I interned at Macy's and Target in undergrad. Macy's was a sales management intern, so executive development program. So you're like working in the store, learning how to run the store, things like that. Then I interned at Target at their headquarters in Minneapolis. I was a business analyst intern there, I was in D74, which is lighting and home decor. So anything that you see, like when you walk into Target, like lighting, furniture, like all that kind of stuff, that was like the group that I was in. During my time at Target, I had an idea for an app that I wanted to build, and I had thinkings of like I wanted to like build something, but I wasn't thinking like, oh, I want to work in technology in a certain function. I just wanted to build a certain thing. The app that we ended up building was called Like Me. It was an identity and interest-based social network, helping people grow their networks outside of the schools they go to and the companies they work at, since the majority of the networks that people get are from those two spaces. So during my senior year, I recruited two of my co-founders because I was like the director of member relations for the Entrepreneurship Association. So I had like a lot of contacts and a lot of ways to get to know folks. Recruited my two co-founders to help build Like Me. We ended up building that, and we ended up launching it roughly a week after I graduated from undergrad, and we worked on that for like roughly like a year and some change, closer to 2 years, something like that. And then we ended up like shutting it down because we couldn't get any funding. But I'll say when it comes down to like my professional journey, the Macy's and Target experiences, Macy's like showed me like really like what on a very like quote unquote low level, like what leadership can look like. Because my leader there, Julie, who I worked under, she is probably like, honestly the best, one of the best examples of leadership that I've seen. And that goes from like, working at Macy's all the way to where I'm at now. And that was super interesting. My experience at Target, I actually got to talk to one of the former executives at Target, Alan Wiseman. I got to talk to him about Like Me and what I wanted to build and things like that. And I thought that was dope for like an intern being able to talk to like someone who's an executive at like a big organization like Target about what they were trying to do. And then building Like Me was like just going idea to launch to user base to like some media pubs. Like that was just a very foundational for me to see like, yo, I do actually like building software products. So like, can I do that for other folks? And after we shut down Like Me, I ended up getting a job at US News and World Report on their product team. And US News and World Report, as everybody knows, ranks everything. They rank the colleges, cars, all that kind of stuff. And I was on the autos vertical there. So yeah, that's kind of like how I got my start.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So it's really kind of like a diverse perspective from like what you do now. And can you kind of go over what you do now exactly, like your role at TikTok?
Yeah, so I work in product operations. So high level product operations is here to help the regions we work with and the stakeholders that we work with build better. So our job is broken up into three buckets. First one is launch readiness. Second is bugs and issues. And third is product iteration. Launch readiness is what it sounds like is making sure that all stakeholders and within regions are ready for what features are coming down the pipeline. Are there any changes that need to happen per region to customize it so it works and fits for them? And generally making sure that people in the loop and questions are answered before launch. Bugs and issues is what that sounds like. We're here to, if there are any bugs that are reported externally from users or internally from employees, we make sure that the bugs get resolved and triaged appropriately, because all bugs are not made equal. Some are more important than others. As folks know, like if everything's a fire, then nothing's a fire. So that's kind of like the way that I look at bugs and issues. And then lastly, product iteration. That's where we're leveraging qualitative and quantitative insights to help refine the features that are coming out. Right now, we're all over specific verticals. I'm on trust and safety specifically, which is, as it sounds, doing all the things that look to make TikTok as safe as possible and as trusted as possible from not only from users but external parties as well. So that's kind of the gist of what product operations looks like at TikTok.
What does a day in your role look like? What can like our members look forward to by pursuing a career in your field?
Yeah, I'll just say like product in general, because product operations and product management are relatively the same thing. I used to work in product management before I went to product operations. What you would want to look forward to is that this is a role where if you have a high, I don't want to say high. Yeah, I'll say high. If you have a high EQ, someone who understands qualitative and quantitative metrics, and you do like building relationships and you can build like rapport with people relatively easily, this is a role that like really fits for you because you are here to help guide a process and make sure things get out the door, make sure that, you know, stakeholders are looped in how they need to be, and then being able to give your own thoughts and insights on how something should develop going forward. So like product roles are primarily for folks that like you're not the person who makes the end all be all decision on everything, but you're someone who can bring all folks in the room together. And then when you get all their recommendations, you can make a informed decision with your own own thinking process as well on how things can work. So I would say like product is a very like mix of like folks who are interested in business design and engineering all in like one. And you can go and help guide the strategy on how things are built. So that is kind of what I would say is the biggest thing to look forward to in product roles.
What would you say are some of the most rewarding aspects of your work?
Yeah, so for me, I think the most rewarding aspect for me is when we launch something that is like, you know, users really, really like, which is like a very like cliche thing to say. But a less cliche thing to say is that I find a lot of joy in being able to build processes or do things that makes the lives of my coworkers easier. So like us launching a certain feature, while it could help users, could also help one of my counterparts or one of my coworkers do their job a lot easier. Like for example, if I launch a feature that they can now use to help build like an external relationship with a certain party, that would be great. Like, okay, we launched this thing. Now you can point to this thing while you're trying to like sell a client or work with an organization and things like that. So I think product for me is not only making sure that the lives of the users are getting better and better over time, but also how are you building product and features and building the company in a way that also helps your coworkers do their work most effectively.
I also kind of wanted to touch on some aspects of your organization. Like, I know our members, like, we definitely want to know what diversity means to TikTok, how you see this theme being highlighted in your firm.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So major shout out to Belinda Frazier. She heads up culture and diversity here for North America for TikTok. And she's been very intentional about like, first, we have a thing called rap sessions, which is like every Friday we can sit, talk about like things that are happening in the news, all the way from the things that are connected to the company, all the way to everything that's happened with Black Lives Matter. We held internal discussions about the George Floyd murder and protests. We also held space for the most recent Jacob Blake situation as well. And I think that's what inclusion is about. Inclusion is about holding space and giving those kinds of spaces for folks. Diversity from a hiring front, I can really only speak for the user and product operations group. So for us, we actually have quantitative benchmarks on what hiring looks like for us. And I tip my hat off to Seth, who's the head of user and product operations here at TikTok. He is very adamant about diversity, not only from like, people try to think of diversity like, we have, a bunch of like white guys, like what's another like white woman. That's not how he looks at it. He looks at it from like a gender, racial, and ethnic. The ethnic piece is very interesting because you can have like a whole bunch of like either like black or brown folks, but all those people are from the same like ethnic background. So you want to like take it like a step deeper and and get that true diversity out of places. So for us over on UPO, we like really try to do a lot of work to make sure that we're hiring inclusively, not only from like the ones that people think of race and gender, but ethnic. I mean, like honestly, experience background. Like you don't have to have like the cookie cutter experience to make it and to get hired and to work on our team. So that's kind of the way that we look at diversity and inclusion overall. It's driven from top down from folks like Belinda Frazier, but also it's department by department, as I highlighted with Seth.
Just lastly, like, are there any like kind of concrete resources that you like direct residents to, maybe in terms of like recruiting with your organization, or even just recruiting in general?
Yeah, so I would say the main way that folks can like connect with us, like we've hosted events with this organization called Next Play, which I'll send you all the link for it. So that's where like, you know, Black and Latinx students and professionals can come in and network with like folks who work at TikTok, Snap, Riot. We also had Lyft there. Like we had a variety of like, you know, bigger organizations there where people can like directly connect with recruiters, directly connect with like people that work in the functions that they're interested in and things like that. So I'd say like coming to our Next Play events is a great way to get in contact. LinkedIn is like okay, like to be like, you know, I don't really know how often people check their LinkedIns. So while LinkedIn is great as an online resume, I don't think it's as great as a way to connect with folks. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So anywhere you can like meet people in like some type of like in the new world we're living in a digital event setting, I think is it will be the most effective way to connect with someone. Or if you're someone who is like active on Twitter, tech Twitter is a very big thing, all the way from media to venture capitalists to operators such as myself. If you really want to like really get in the know and really go deep, really following folks on tech in Twitter, saying your own thoughts and like building your relationships there, because tech Twitter for me has been indispensable as it relates to my career growth and the opportunities that I've gotten. So I would definitely, if I was going to tell someone where to spend their time outside of digital events, I would not spend as much time on LinkedIn. I would spend more time on Twitter.
Okay, that's helpful actually. Thank you. To close out, like, are there any kind of specific piece of advice you would give anyone looking to break into the industry, into the space? Anything they can start doing now from an undergraduate perspective, just to start preparing for this kind of career?
Oh, 100%. I would say definitely be involved in entrepreneurial spaces. Like as we all know, like the Greif Center is like great for that, because that's like all that the Greif Center is like entrepreneurial stuff. So being in those spaces, taking like the BAPE classes and stuff like that, because those are where you connect with the people who are, you know, building in this space. Like, you know, I met a lot of the VCs that I know or operators that I know. I met them from being in those spaces. Like strictly only going to, you know, only doing class and not doing anything else was never a good move for anybody. But like being in those entrepreneurial spaces and showing that you're a builder, showing that you're someone who likes to do things like that, can connect you with folks who can give you the opportunities that you're looking for. So definitely like having like a side project, something you can point to that you took from idea to some type of conception, is like super important. And it's been honestly a saving grace for me as I've navigated the space. I'd also say that when people talk about product or technology and stuff like that, they're like, oh, you know, should I learn how to code? Do I need to learn how to code X amount to be able to be competitive? I would say that no, you should really be leaning into learning how to design, learning how to do like user experience and user interface design in some kind of way, because you have to mock up what your idea is and be able to communicate that visually to stakeholders. So I think that is super important. And in the tools that folks can use for the design, you can use Marvel, you can use Figma. Those are two like super popular ones that folks can use for design. I'd say you also want to understand data. So like you want to understand how to use third-party platforms. Like you want to learn how to use Google Analytics, Adobe Omniture. Those are the two most popular technical skill set. Understanding SQL, so you can know how to pull data from databases. is super important, especially as much data is starting to now get, like, of course, stored in the cloud and stored in DBs. People are being asked and tasked to be able to pull data themselves in certain ways. So like design data, showing that you're proactive and can take, something from idea to some type of conception, I think would play well for anybody that looks to work in technology, but very specifically for folks that want to work in products.